Meeting come to order. Clerk call the roll.
Mayor Manning.
Present.
Councilman Patricelli.
Present.
Councilman McGrady.
Present.
Before we get into the meeting agenda, if you want to come in, find a seat. We're going to line them up over here, so if you want to see them, go to my left, your right. We have a special presentation tonight that will be run by Jeremy Smith. While he's getting set up, these guys are here for something. Probably if you saw the pictures, we could end it right there. But, go ahead and make the presentation.
Welcome everybody and good evening. Tonight we begin with a special presentation and recognition of some real-life heroes. As the general manager of the city, I also have the distinguished title of being the Commissioner of Public Safety. And tonight, as the Commissioner of Public Safety, it is my honor to present two departments of public safety with commendations for the work that they have performed. On Thursday, September 26, 2019, dispatch informed us of a tractor trailer that had tipped over on top of a car, crushing it on 787. Police and fire departments were immediately dispatched and found what looked to be a deadly, tragic accident. Fortunately, luck was on the side of the individual who was crushed under the car. He was lucky for two reasons. First, he was lucky that the guardrail had supported the tractor trailer, which was carrying over 42,000 pounds of flour. But most importantly, he was lucky to have the two very best fire departments dispatched to save his life. In a matter of minutes, the Watervliet and Troy fire departments supported the tractor trailer, and the brave individuals climbed underneath it and extracted a trapped driver and transported him for further treatment. I was able to watch this firsthand. I can say, as the individual tasked with ensuring and providing a high level of public safety, we can all rest assured and sleep well every night that we are protected by the finest. The way that these two separate departments work together, the communication, the teamwork, and the camaraderie between the Watervliet and Troy fire departments is second to none. You would not know that they were separate departments divided by the Hudson River. As the Commissioner of Public Safety, it is my distinguished honor to present the following citations. And I will read them as they were written. In recognition of your outstanding efforts on September 26, 2019, in the effective rescue at an accident on I-787, where a sports car was trapped underneath an overturned semi-truck, this distinguished unit citation is hereby awarded. Your quick actions and dedication to duty was second to none. Please accept our appreciation and admiration for your professional and noble service to the victims involved in the accident. This distinguished unit citation for the City of Troy Fire Department, Firefighter Garrett Reardon, Firefighter David Bulak, Firefighter Jeffrey Riley, Firefighter Thomas Blake, Captain David Wheeler, Captain Michael Bailey, Assistant Chief David Paul, and Fire Chief Eric McMahon. Our second unit citation for the City of Watervliet Fire Department. Once again, in recognition of your outstanding efforts on September 26, 2019, in the effective rescue at an accident on I-787, where a sports car was trapped underneath an overturned semi-truck. This distinguished unit citation is hereby awarded. Your quick actions and dedication to duty was second to none. Please accept our appreciation and admiration for your professional and noble service to the victims involved in this accident. Firefighter Eric Panici, Firefighter Daniel Chira, Lieutenant Scott Rentz, Lieutenant James Strock, Captain James Chartrand, and Fire Chief Thomas Garrett.
Just want to tell everybody that these guys are the best, both departments. I know a couple of these guys here in the back behind me. Had a couple years with them. They're all great guys. These guys are the best. And I just want to tell you, none of this would have happened if it wasn't for Tom McCormick. A lot of people, Tom's been going along a lot of years. He was the guy that initially set all this up, and we should never forget him. He was responsible for setting all this up. So thank you very much for all coming out.
I'm good.
Okay. Once again, thanks, our sincere thanks. County, oh, I'm sorry. We move on all the time, sorry. County's here to back us up.
Bruce. Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Joyce. I'm chair of the Albany County Legislature. I'm joined here by the County Clerk, Bruce Hidley, and Legislator Sean Ward from Green Island. I want to thank you all for your hospitality tonight and your patience. I hear City of Watervliet, they don't take too kindly to outsiders, and I'm from Albany, but I'm here and I appreciate it. We all saw the images from that accident on 787. Everyone was really swept up in it. I'm a New York Army National Guardsman. I've been one for 18 years. I understand what it means somewhat to live a life where you have to drop everything and go help people at a moment's notice. And it's a rare breed. It's a special kind of person that does the training and steps into this public safety role. And they stand up and they raise their hand and say, I want to be the one that's going to be there if my loved ones or my family are in trouble. So this is an incredible, incredible story, an incredible act of bravery, incredible act of professionalism. You talk about interoperability and mutual aid, and everything worked perfectly because of how wonderful these people are and how professional they are, how skilled they are. So we have two proclamations here tonight. Well, I also want to mention that Bob Beston, legislator from Watervliet, couldn't be here tonight, but he sends his regards. Most certainly. We have two proclamations. We have one honoring the Troy Fire Department and the Watervliet Fire Department. And we'll do the Troy one first. Resolved that on behalf of all the members of the Albany County Legislature and all the citizens of Albany County, we extend sincere gratitude to the Watervliet Fire Department and Troy Fire Department and recognize that they continuously perform critical services to the well-being of our citizens and are forever grateful for their service and their sacrifice. So thank you very much. We'll give this to Troy.
Here, you know what? Let's get with all these guys. Sorry for making such a big
No, we did. Yes, you have the pros and everything. Come to the next press conference.
By the way, that proclamation was signed by the chairman of the Albany County Legislature, Andrew Joyce. He didn't read that, but surely it is.
And now on to Watervliet, our kind and patient host tonight. And resolved that on behalf of all the members of the Albany County Legislature and all the citizens of Albany County, we extend sincere gratitude to the Watervliet Fire Department and recognize that they continuously perform critical services to the well-being of our citizens, and we are forever grateful for their service and their sacrifice. So thank you, folks. One more, guys. And we'll get on to the people's business.
Awesome.
Go. Thanks. Thanks for doing that. You can hang that on the train or something. Thanks so much. I'll be driving slow on 787 for sure, but I know you guys are there. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate everybody coming to watch the commendation. Of course, you're welcome to stay. Probably won't happen, but you're welcome to stay. Thank you, guys.
All the neighbors. I'll let the guys. They all noticed it. Great. That's awesome.
How are you, sir?
That's why we,
Good? All right, we're back online here. Reports from officers and committees. Scott, while he's down, would you please read the minutes from our last meeting?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the previous minutes.
I second that.
Accept as written. Call the roll.
Councilman Patricelli?
In favor.
Councilman Scrati?
In favor.
Mayor Manning?
In favor. Reports from officers and committees.
thank you, Mayor. Tonight in the reports of officers and committees, I have a presentation and a couple of announcements, but we'll begin with the presentation of the 2020 water and sewer budget. So we always start with the comparison of the budgets across the previous year. So we break it down into specific categories, the 2019 budget to the 2020 budget. And what we see here is an increase in total expenditures from the 2019 budget to the 2020 budget. And we'll get into this a little bit more, and then of course the budget will be available to everybody on the city's website or by contacting the clerk's office for a hard copy. The main thing that we see here is an increase in total expenditures for the total budget. And where we see that main increase come into play is in the general costs. The general cost increase about $290,000. Okay, and the main reason for that, I believe we're all aware of, is the increased tax assessment of the city's property out in Guilderland. That is the main purpose of the increase in total expenditures and in the general costs. In personnel, as we talked about at the budget workshop, there's a 1.5% increase for all CSEA personnel. So that is reflected in that number, and that is the only increase there. The pump station costs have been reduced throughout the budget. Again, the main portion of the pump station costs, again, that's work out in Guilderland, so that has to do with reservoir maintenance and engineering out there. There is some work that has to be done out at the reservoir, but it's not an annual maintenance, it's an overall large maintenance project that should be considered as a capital project. It's not part of the annual budget. The filter plant has a slight reduction as well. As we talked about in the budget workshop, that's really due to the decrease in purchase of equipment for the filter plant. Distribution is basically the mains and all the work that goes along really in the city itself, and that is reduced as well. Once again, the main reason for that reduction is the reduction in purchase of equipment. And in reducing the purchase of equipment, it is, again, to reduce the burden on the taxpayers for the total expenditures. Insurances, a slight increase there. That increase in insurances is really related to the projected health insurance costs that we've received. And then the transfers and debt, there's a slight increase there, and that is because of the slight increase in the debt that we have in the future years because of the large projects that we've undertaken in the past couple of years. So that is the difference between the 19 and 20 budget, but we see that the major reason being the taxes. So the revenues for the water budget, and again you'll see some increases here in the metered and unmetered numbers. The metered numbers increase slightly, and we'll get into the reason for that in just a little bit. Arsenal numbers are down slightly. Their usage was significantly down this year, so that needed to be reduced, but it was based on a 5-year average of their use. We didn't have to reduce as much as originally expected. The amount that we pay, or that we receive from Guilderland, is by contract. Certainly would love to jump that number up because of what they've done to us. Well, we're unable to do that based on the contract, but on the contract, we should receive $870,000 from them. The unmetered amount goes up about $220,000, and we'll get into the reason for that. Interest, roughly the same year over year, and then the sale of power slightly increased because we do have a project going on out there to increase the capacity that the hydroelectric facility can produce. So some notes on this. Again, the 2019 total revenues and expenditures was $2,872,000. The 2020 revenues and expenditures, $3,137,000. So that's a total increase of $265,000. And again, that is reduced because of some of the cuts made in the budget itself to Dave Dressel and the crew's equipment purchases and others. The percentage increase in the budget, so percentage increase in expense year over year, is 9.2%. And that is equal to a rate increase of roughly 11%. So what's being proposed here is an 11% increase in the water rate to cover the difference. So, once again, the increase in assessment from Guilderland is the main reason for an increase in the rate and an increase in the expense. The assessment increase is equal to $319,000 in cost, just the assessment increase itself. What we have to pay out in taxes because of that assessment increase is an additional $319,000 over what was originally budgeted in the past years. There's also a decrease in the arsenal revenue, as I mentioned, due to the usage decrease. So a net effect of those two things is about $329,000. It results in a significant decrease in spending and transfers to reserves to be able to, again, reduce the burden on the tax increase. Increase from the flat rate is $179 to $200, or $21 per cycle. It's a 6-month cycle, so a total of $42 for each unit. And then an increase in the meter rate goes from $3.98 to $4.42 per 1,000 gallons of usage. And then we move on to the sewer budget. The sewer budget, and I apologize for the numbers, should say 19 and 20. The total expenditures in 19, where it says 18, were $1.237 million. Total expenditures in 19 has been reduced to $1.215. Personnel costs are slightly reduced by about $11,000. The general maintenance costs are almost exactly the same. A few $100 change there. So there was some reduction in some general maintenance costs and an increase in others, but ultimately ended up being flat. Insurances, again, we were able to reduce slightly. What is the sewer budget's requirements for that, and then the transfers and debt is reduced slightly, and again, that is mostly due to a slight reduction in transfers to the reserves. So originally in the budget workshop, we had talked about a 6% increase in the sewer budget. In changing some things in the expenses and in the revenues, the metered revenue, it goes from $189,000 to $187,000. That's from the finance department, working the numbers on what came in this year. The arsenal, that is one of the main issues that we ran into in the budget workshop. The arsenal's usage, once again, was way down, so we charged them based on the meter. And so that was looked at being further reduced originally, but we based it on a 5-year average, and that put it at $110,000. That is down $25,000 from the previous year. Town of Colony, what we charge them is flat and is based on how many parcels they have. There's no change there. The unmetered rate goes up about $2,000, and again, that's just working the numbers on who was unmetered. And then the interest slightly increased based on what we brought in 2019. So again, 2019 total revenues and expenditures was $1,237,000. The 2020 total revenues is just over $1,215,000. It is a total overall decrease in the budget and spending of $21,488. The percentage decrease on the budget is 1.74%, and there is no increase in the sewer rate. It is a flat rate for this year that is being proposed. So the reasons for the decrease in spending, a decrease in water usage by the arsenal, which decreased the revenue by $25,000. So that resulted in the need to decrease spending. So there's an overall decrease in the budget to balance the budget. And so no change in the current rate schedule. So what is next? The presentation is today, October 3rd. On tonight's agenda, we will publish 4 public hearings on October 17th, 2019. To hear those persons that wish to be heard on the budget and the proposed rates. So that will be on the local law and the ordinance. So to pass the sewer budget and rates is a local law, and for the water is an ordinance. And then following that, it's at the council's discretion, but they usually take until the next meeting to take in all the thoughts and all the comments, and the local law and ordinance can then be voted on November 7th, which would enact the rates from November 1st of 2019 until October 31st of 2020.
Public hearing is actually the 17th, not the 19th.
The 17th, sorry about that. That is the water and sewer budget presentation. Any questions from the council?
So the amount that we're moving into public reserves, the offset from the assessment is about what?
So no movement from fund balance. This does not propose any movement from fund balance. So in the budget, there are 3 reserves that the water fund transfers into for future costs or unknown costs. Those have been slightly reduced to, yes,
To offset it.
to help to offset it, but it's still, there's
That's about what?
There's not enough money to cut out of the budget to be able to completely offset it. I believe between the 2 that were reduced, it's about $25,000 to $30,000, just in those 2 areas. The budget has been supplied to the council and will be available for everybody's view. Obviously, prior to the public hearing, it should be up on the website tomorrow for you to either download or you can get it at the clerk's office.
Can we balance it and have a no increase just using fund balance?
I believe so. I actually do have some statistics on that on here. So the water fund currently has a fund balance of $540,000, so in excess of $540,000 from budgets year over year. So New York State Office of the State Comptroller recommends a minimum of 10%. Depending on who you ask, they'd certainly like for you to have more, but 10% is what they hope that everybody should have. I would be in agreement with that. So that would be equal to $313,200. So we are not expected, based on projections, to have to use any fund balance in 2019. A lot of that credit goes to the Finance Department and Dave Dressel, and the Water Department as well, finding ways to be able to cover the cost for the taxes by not using the spending that was apportioned in there. So, I mean, to make it a 0, the council could consider appropriating $200,000. That is almost the exact number of what the 11% increase is equal to in 2020. So in doing that, obviously it would take 540 and reduce it to 340, which is still above the 10%. And then moving forward, as the litigation takes place or settlement takes place with Guilderland, if that settlement is to happen or there's litigation that results in the city receiving money back from the taxes that were paid, it could then go back into it and could offset that number.
That's not a guarantee.
Certainly not a guarantee. Certainly not a guarantee.
And also, what would be the expected legal costs for that?
So the legal costs are in here now for the year, are in the budget for this year. and that's based on what we expect in 2020. So in 2020, our legal costs for the attorney that we've hired to go through this and work towards settlement. If we end up in litigation, that would happen in 2021 likely. It wouldn't happen in 2020, and then those numbers would greatly increase in the 2021 budget. So we have, I believe, 20 or 25,000, I don't have the numbers in front of me, for the legal fees for Goldman, who's representing us. But the expectation is that would be closer to 6 figures if we got into litigation in the next year.
6 figures.
6 figures, because having to go to trial and having expert witnesses and things of that nature.
Which is not refundable under the...
No legal fees or experts are refundable. So I'm sure the hope is to settle
Well, the hope is
some way, but an increase from just under $3 million in assessment to 17, we're very far apart.
And the other consideration too is if you did take the risk of saying using your fund balance and having no interest, then you also have the risk of doubling the increase for next year if it does go to 2021.
So the difference would be if it happened again next year, it would end up being that 11% that it is this year. So it wouldn't double, it would just be the same thing, but we would have less fund balance.
We would have less fund balance.
Correct. It would go from 540 to 340. Yeah.
How long is our contract with Gilderland right now?
I believe we have 6 or 7 years left, 2028.
We're sitting in the driver's seat.
Much of a fund balance is very awesome. And last week we kind of said, we gave the presentation that the water plant needs $7 million in repairs when it's bringing on a lot here to bring it up to date. How, what if something does happen and you need to have that money?
So there's a couple of different things. One thing that we've done in recent years, and continue to talk about it, and need to continue always to have that conversation. And this is, again, this is really good stuff for the public hearing in 2 weeks to be able to, get your voices heard as to whether or not this is a good idea or not, an appropriate fund balance. Again, they suggest always having that 10% because then if something does happen, you have some leeway there, you have some cash to be able to take care of it, and when times are tight, there's more cash in hand. But we have been putting money into reserves. So we've been putting money into an equipment reserve, a crude liability reserve, excuse me, and into reserve for repairs. So when and if we have an emergency repair that takes place, we have a fund that can take care of that. So, I mean, yes, if something truly catastrophic was to happen and we needed money, no, there's not enough for something like that, and that's when it would be, have to go out to bond and, future debt. The more fund balance you have, yes, the more secure you feel, right? The more money that each of us has in our savings account, the better we feel. So yes, you would want to have more, but the question is, would you rather have more money in your savings account, or would you rather have your tax go up for the water? And that's really what I would suggest the discussion be at the public hearing, is to to have your voices heard as to which of those options you prefer. Again, the hope is that we're able to negotiate something with the town of Gilderland, who have been partners of ours for many years, to be able to come up with a way to reduce this assessment so that their taxpayers aren't benefiting from the dollars of our taxpayers. And that is the fight that the city is willing to have of taking on council, and that I believe is a fair argument on our end based on what they've done. But at the public hearing should really be, this should be what you're considering.
Is your reserves that you're stating for your other 2 areas, is that included in that 140,000?
No.
That's additional.
Yeah, so there's 2 different types of fund balance. There's appropriated and non-appropriated. Is that right, Mike?
The fund balance, the reserves are held in a different fund.
Yeah. So that's a capital reserve.
Okay.
So they're separate. They're on their own, and they're not considered part of the available fund balance. So this is available fund balance, so something that could be appropriated or used at the council's discretion. And so that's the reason that it's not proposed in the budget. It is really at the council's discretion to use fund balance, and is not, I don't feel is proper for the general manager to say it should be used. Personally, I believe that that would be the way to go, because I think that we can get some of this money back, if not all of it, but that's just one man's opinion. So, but definitely something that should be thought about and talked about as to what's better. Any other questions on this? Do have two other brief announcements. First, as we talk about debt here, we obviously, when we have large capital projects, we do go out. The council does approve bond resolutions to be able to cover the cost of those capital projects, and then we receive grants to offset that. So as we always move forward, we have bond anticipation notes that we then go long-term with our debt and put it out over the amount of years that is expected for that. And in doing that, this was a good year to do it. Anybody that follows finance and the economy, the quote, money is cheap right now, so it's a very good time to go out for that, and never know what's going to happen next. So with rates looking very low, we made the determination to go out for that. In doing that, you have to speak with the rating agencies. They make a determination as to what your rating is. That can help with your interest rate. So a few years back, we had a rating of A+, but there was a negative outlook for the city because of the way that the finances were. So about a week or so ago, myself, Mayor Manning, and Mike McNeff spoke with Standard & Poor's, also known as S&P, and today we received our rating. We had an increase in our rating, boosted rating. We maintained at an A+ rating, but we now have a stable outlook. So our rating has been increased, which is positive news, continuing with the positive financial news that we've been talking about for the last 6 months to a year. So more positive news, and that press release will probably go out sometime either tomorrow or early next week. So continuing positive stuff there. And for those of you that were here last week, there was a lot of talk about one specific task and one specific item. And I think we all were able to get an understanding of what the problems were with moving forward with Bulk Week, and what the problems were with how it was presented. So after hearing everybody's thoughts and taking a deeper look into it, the code does make some statements that there will be Bulk Week. It also gives the general manager the option of making changes to that. And so after looking at it thoroughly and talking it over with the council, we will be holding a Bulk Week. The Bulk Week will be where it's best accommodated by holidays and by where we have the most staff. So it's going to be a bit later this year. It will be November 18th through the 22nd or 23rd, which is the Friday. So again, the same as always, on your regular garbage day, put out your bulk items, again, 4 by 4 by 8. The less the better.
I'm not worried about snow.
Well, yeah. But again, in November, the first 2 weeks have holidays, and the last week has a holiday. So putting it that week is the best week, so we're not behind. And we already had some scheduled time off for some of the guys, so we wouldn't have had the manpower. We're all hoping that we don't have snow at that time, but we did get hit pretty hard last few Thanksgivings. So with that said, my recommendation stands that the code should be changed to move away from Bulk Week and come up with another idea. So since the problem has been solved in the present, I think the council has a little bit more time to consider what the move should be moving forward based on what has been presented, what the department has talked about, and the many reasons why we have given that Bulk Week should be discontinued. But you should certainly all know that when you do speak, everybody does listen, and when we make a mistake, we own it. So. Mayor, that's all that I have for this evening.
We're going to move on while you're doing that, eh? Scott, any old business?
We have nothing in old business.
Okay, let's get into new business.
New business, we have resolution number 9664. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby authorizes and directs Scott O'Reilly, City Clerk to the Council, to advertise in the official newspaper of the city that a public hearing will be held in the J. Leo O'Brien Senior Citizen Center Watervliet, New York, on Thursday, October 17, 2019, at 7 p.m. for the purpose of hearing those persons who wish to be heard regarding proposed local law number 5 for the year 2019, a local law to amend Chapter 230, Sewers of the Code of the City of Watervliet, regarding establishing and imposing sewer rents for the period of November 1st, 2019 to October 31st, 2020.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Is there any discussion? This is announcing a public hearing for the presentation we just had, along with the next one. So, Scott, call roll.
Council Petroselli.
In favor.
Council McGratty.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9665. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby authorizes under X. Scott O'Reilly, City Clerk, Clerk to the Council, to advertise in the official newspaper of the city that a public hearing will be held in the J. Lee O'Brien Senior Citizen Center in Watervliet, New York, on Thursday, October 17, 2019, at 7 p.m. for the purpose of hearing those persons who wish to be heard regarding proposed ordinance number 2013, an ordinance of the City of Watervliet amending Chapter 266, Water of the Code of the City of Watervliet, regarding establishing and imposing water rates for the period of November 1st, 2019 to October 31st, 2020.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9665 as written.
Mayor, I'll second it.
Same thing, no discussion. I just will make a point for the public hearing, whatever we have the public hearing on, wherever the budget stands, is what we could vote on the following thing, right? So we need to have feedback in for the water, how we want that presented, right?
Well, you already have the budget prepared, right?
Well, it was presented here with a 11% increase, the option of using fund balance, all, some. Should get your feedback to Jeremy before we actually announce the topic at the public hearing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I believe what has been distributed to the council with respect to the ordinance has been same ordinance, but with different amounts based on discussion. Would that be accurate? That's what you have received?
You received both.
Did I receive the actual budget?
So the ordinances, there's two ordinances.
Right.
The difference in the budget would be the appropriation of $200,000 in fund balance. So that would be the difference in the budget. So the budget you received does not have it appropriated, it would just be putting that 200 in. But the actual ordinance that the public hearing is for the rates, is for setting the rates. So the two ordinances that were received, one was for an 11% increase, one was for no increase. So it would be determining which one of those the public hearing is for.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So I know when it's the general fund budget, if the budget is reduced, there's no need for a public hearing. So it would be a question of whether or not if the water rate was reduced, if there's a need for a second public hearing. I defer to council.
I mean, if it's different with respect to the amounts, I mean, I would say yes. I mean, just going back a step, the local law that we have, that's been distributed to the council, so that's my understanding what it could be voted on. I mean, if you're going to change any of the terms and conditions of the local law or any of the language, then there needs to be another public hearing. But we're talking about the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have two.
Right.
We have to present one for the hearing.
Okay.
So feedback into which one we're going to present. It's a long-winded way to say, pick one of the ordinances.
Or an alternative.
Could the public hearing be on both ordinances, or do you have two?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be completely open and honest. I've never actually done it that way. I know the law with respect to local laws, I know I'm going back, are much stricter and must be adhered to. You know, if there's any significant changes, then you need to have a public hearing. The ordinance, you have both that are presented, so I mean, if there's any significant or different changes, I mean, we could consider doing a public hearing, but I think the public should be aware of specifically what is being proposed on, what's being voted on, you know, ahead of time, as opposed to just right then and there.
So pick one. Is that your advice?
That's my
In
advice.
layman's terms?
Yes.
All right, so before next meeting, get input to Mike McNabb.
There you go.
Thanks for volunteering. Okay,
And getting information to Mike McNabb is basically whether or not we're going to use any of the fund balance or not. Or any of the changes that we have.
0, 200, somewhere in between, yes.
Well, it's not even, it's still less than what we have, we're being assessed by Gilbert.
The amount of fund balance?
No, well, the fund balance, but the expense. So, I mean, we're not spending it all. We had just reduced some of the expenses.
Yes. We reduced some expenses to reduce.
And some of the expenses are probably a little lean, you know, just to help cut down the increase or the use of that assessment.
Yeah, I think that the main reduction in expense came from reservoir maintenance and reservoir engineering. And again, the project and what needs to be done out at the reservoir is a larger capital project. It's not an annual line item project. So my suggestion would be that it be considered a capital project and use capital expenses for it, which either can be funded through bonds or grants or both.
Do we have an opinion from our Director of Finance on how he is viewing the use of the capital or the assessment or fund balance?
The use of the fund balance?
Should we use fund balance, yes or no?
Yes or no? Again, it's not, the fund balance is necessary. I mean, the levels we're at we're at a good level right now because it allows us to, for one thing, when we have new projects come along, it requires a lot of times to spend first and get reimbursed, and that's where it comes into play, really.
So what happened?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So 200,000, it's a big bite out of it, but we'd still be at the levels recommended. But does the public have the appetite for another rate increase?
Well, nobody has that. Nobody has that, but we're at the back end of Gilbert. But what you're doing is...
we have, you know, options. If we get tight, you know, the options of, you know, using RANs if necessary. If we get to that point again, we're so far from that right now. I mean, we've built the reserves up to a very healthy level. So I think we could absorb it this year with the hope that some of that's going to come back as well. I mean, assume the negotiations and the court proceedings is going to bring some reduction from their current request of $17 million down. I just don't see it, but you never know.
You don't know. That's all about. Okay.
So, well, that was a good way to run right around it. I never answered your question.
Oh yeah, you did. You made me more feel. I mean, I'm not a believer of using the fund balance, you know, for this particular use right now. I just think it just puts us in a great risk for 220 and 221. And if it so needs it that we have to reduce it, and once we reduce the rates or reduce the expenses, and we can keep it, and we get any of that money back, the rates can be so therefore adjusted. But why put us in a riskier situation just on a hope that we will come out okay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, as Jeremy stated, we just implemented this next year if we lose the battle, or it would be 2 years down the line. So.
524 is projected 19 ending fund balance?
That's what we had at the end of 18.
Oh, so it could be even higher.
We could be.
Yeah,
our projections are pretty flat.
Well, let's ask Mike that.
For 19, I mean, with...
We had to pay Gilliland this year.
This year we got whacked on the school tax bill, so yeah, I'd say it's a slim chance we have much of a surplus in the waterfront this year.
We're not projected to use any of that.
All right.
Can you give us a sliding 0% or 100,000 or 200,000 where?
Any effect on the rate?
Yes. We may want to do 100,000 and the rate 4% instead of, you know.
Next question? Yes, you may.
Matt?
Yeah, sure.
Does an increase in the fund balance, a greater fund balance, did that have any effect on things like our borrowing and our ratings from people like Standard & Poor's? In other words, if we have a greater fund balance, does that increase or make it more attractive for the city to borrow money at a lower rate?
Sure, yeah, in theory, yeah, it's all about fund balance, really, for rating agencies. They want more cash, the better. They look healthy, less risky.
Thank you.
Before we lose sight, this was just for the public hearing, I got sidetracked, so
Sorry.
let's close that out. Good comments, and we got a whole public hearing.
Sorry.
So save your thoughts, call the roll, Scott.
Councilman Patricelli?
In favor?
Councilman McGratty?
In favor.
Mayor Rand?
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9666. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby approves a management consulting agreement between the City of Watervliet and Jeremy A. Smith for assistance in the management and completion of budget and finance matters, capital project management, strategic planning, and project development, grant administration and acquisition, infrastructure improvement plans and development, union negotiations, and legal settlements.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
I read the contract, Mayor, and I have some concerns over it and some thoughts on it. Seeing I wasn't part of any of the changes and, in the discussions about the management contract or the new acting general manager, I'm confused over, first of all, there's no hourly number on this contract, so there's no cap on it. There's nothing that says here's how much we're looking to spend. The other thing that I'm really confused about is it seems like there's still a lot of authority in the let's say some of the steps or some of the activities that you have in here. Legal settlements, union negotiations. So it just confuses the matter whether or not is it the acting general manager, is it the consultant? How is it going to work? Who answers what questions? How does this happen? Who do we go to, and who does the staff go to? That type of thing. I can understand the knowledge and the background and hey, can you help us out with this? What's this going on? And maybe it might take a few hours to help out with some of the stuff, especially with maybe one of the grants that he might have more, let's say, knowledge than anybody else. But is it that you're going to be doing the grants, or you're going to be completing the grants and acting on behalf of the city, or what? I'm just confused.
No, it's Mark Spain is the acting GM, so any authority that the GM has flows through Mark. As this says, this is assistant in the management and completion of ... So it'll be an assistant to Mark. Mark's primary function will be run the day-to-day. It would be unreasonable for him to step in and try to handle the FERC relicensing.
Well, that's a different one. That's the next one.
I'm just using it as an
Right,
example.
okay, that's the next one, which I understand more than I
Or
understand.
really any of the other projects that are far enough along.
Right.
And the original draft had a cap in it, but somehow it fell out.
So, but I mean, with the rate that I know, the rate that we're engaging Mark in, and he's only working probably about 15 hours a week.
That's capped.
That's the cap for Mark. And then with this, there doesn't seem possible that you can actually assist Mark into something that's only going to be that he'll only be able to do 15 hours in.
I think in the agreement it says the mayor, the director of finance, and the acting general manager, specifically in the agreement. But again, it's just to be available to consult in any matters that maybe they're having difficulty finding the answers to or anything like that. Originally, what was in that agreement was that it would be 10 hours a week. I've got to be honest, I don't think that it's that many hours. I don't think that it's necessary, so I told Jordan that it didn't need to say 10 hours, it should, up to, less than, but it didn't really need an hourly. At the same time, I mean, it could be, I highly doubt it, but it could be more than that, but it's all depending on what it is. And again, the next resolution is completely different.
Right.
But this is really just to be available.
For information.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
not
not
to consult. I certainly will not have any power to make any decisions on any of the information that is in here.
Well, I'm just kind of
to consult and.
Okay.
And that's it.
So like there won't be union negotiations that you'll be attending on behalf of the city?
I wouldn't be signing any agreements with the union.
No, I know that, but I know you couldn't do that. But I mean, will you be sitting at the table looking at, working as a union negotiator on behalf of the city? That's not consulting with Mark and telling Mark how to do things. It's actually being involved in the actual negotiations.
He would be at Mark's discretion to use, not that we anticipate any union contracts.
No. I mean, everybody's under contract, so I don't expect it.
Well, we do have a matter that we should discuss later that we have, so.
I think it's more, there are some open things that with the unions, and there are some open legal settlements,
Right.
and it's again to assist in consulting, specifically as it says, in consulting on those things, based on my knowledge of the history of those
Yes, right.
types of settlements. So,
But we're still a little vague on whether or not, if there was a situation where you had to attend a meeting and something like that, would you be attending a meeting on behalf of the city, or you just tell Mark, hey, this is what we need to do, or you need, advise him on it?
I mean, that's really up at the discretion of those that have the authority. I can't answer that. I don't have.
Well, I'm trying to get something.
There's no plan that he would attend solely.
Okay,
It would
well,
all run through Mark, and if Mark needs assistance, the gist of this is if Mark needs assistance, having not done this before,
Yeah, right.
and not having the knowledge of everything that's going on. There's quite a few things going on, so.
Yeah, what was it?
In a minute. So you want to do it with a cap back in it, is that?
Well, I think a cap of 10 hours it kind of controls it a little bit, and I think it gives me a little bit more of a feeling. I understand then what you mean. Without a cap, it kind of means you could, we can have as whatever you want. And I understand.
That's certainly not my plan.
Yeah, I get it, and I completely understand it. With the next resolution, I think you're going to have enough right there. So, I don't see that as a.
I agree.
So,
How many hours do you put in now, Jeremy?
How many hours do I put in now?
Yeah,
A week?
yeah.
70-ish?
So 15 for Mark and 10 for you, that's 25. There's a little void there, you think?
Yeah, I
Do you
think.
think 10 hours is going to be enough?
I do. A lot of the work that I've been doing has been in great support of the departments, and a lot of that work has been pushed down to the department heads. So a lot of the items I've been handling, whether it be grants or capital projects or things to that nature, working with FRB and Department of State on those matters, working with the Albany County on the shared services agreements and things like that. They've kind of been pushed to different department heads, as well as Mark Spain has been read in on those things. But I think what this is, there's still a lot of questions about that as to the history of it and, how it got to where it is and where it needs to go and next steps. And so as much as giving all that information to those folks over the last 30 to 45 days and what they had already had, there's still going to be questions there. So this is really just to, I believe, to clarify and help with the historical information and what the path was that we were set on, and just advise me what that is. So, I mean, to your point, time will tell, I guess, but I think that it's certainly manageable. And again, this isn't just a 5-minute question. This is for, obviously I'm not going to, write up something because somebody asked me a question. This is more, in-depth conversations and information. But it's a very good point.
So it's been moved on, we want to amend?
Well, it's not. We don't have to amend it. It just amended with the understanding that the agreement will have a cap. That's all.
So we're now going to vote on it with the understanding a cap will be placed in. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Call the roll.
Councilman Patricelli.
In favor.
Councilman McGrattan.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
With the cap.
D.
We'll do it the next one. We'll do it the next one. What's that? It's the same topic. Yeah, I know. We'll do
Okay.
it.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Next, we have resolution number 9667. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby approve a management consulting agreement between the City of Watervliet and Jeremy A. Smith for assistance in the management and completion of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, relicensing of the Normanskill Hydroelectric Facility.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9667 as written.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Or questions or comments?
So the extent.
Yeah, so the FERC relicensing, as I just mentioned, is kind of pushing a lot of the information down to specific people. Unfortunately, I don't believe that there's anybody that we have on staff right now that has the time, availability, or knowledge to be able to continue this project. This is a long-term project. This is a 5-year relicensing term. The main aspects of it have mostly taken place, but between now and February of 2020 is probably the biggest amount of work that needs to be done on this before the final license goes in. After that point, it's then in FERC's hands, and there's some back and forth and some negotiating and some things there. But a lot of it is also dealing with the people that have been dealt with over the last 2.5 years. And this comes to final resolution in February of 2022. But between February of 2020 and February of 2022, it's very limited amount of time or work. So, to the cap point that was mentioned before, it would be impossible for me to say what that is, but it'll always be, everybody will be updated each step of the way as to where it's at, what's been done, and how much time it is. There's the point that there's even a meeting next week with the stakeholders on this, so it starts right away.
Is there any general, I'll take some comments on having Jeremy come back and help.
Have what?
If the general subject is Jeremy's being hired back to help in the transition.
The $100 an hour, is that encompassing like that, do we have to provide benefits and stuff like that, or is he taking off from all that?
That $100 an hour is not me. So.
It's not $100 an hour.
Well, just.
But whatever.
You're saying whatever the number is.
No, he's a private contractor, a 1099 employee.
Right, so this additional task that he has to set up between February 20 and 2022, is that additional hours that are going to be needed on top of the 10 hours capped for general manager?
So the first one that's on there is just to consult until the end of the year, which at that point I believe it's expected that a new full-time general manager will be on staff that can handle all of those things. This is specifically for this task, for this item.
Okay.
So,
that was my actual.
They're separate, and it is not $100 an hour. Definitely not.
I was just wondering if it was, no, I lost it. Sorry. Hold on.
All right, hold on. Well, one in the back.
So are we going to have something in the budget for E&O insurance for you, or no?
I don't think I'm going to have the authority that would require that. Again, it's just consulting, so it's similar to an engineer, or we have Paul Murphy that's a consultant, or any other consultant, so I wouldn't have that liability would fall directly on me. But I wouldn't have the authority that would really require any of that. And any decisions that are final decisions that are being made would be made either by the council or the general manager. Even with the FERC relicensing, I wouldn't be able to sign for the city. I'm the representative, some kind of OBO on behalf of the city, and then it would have to be either at the time the mayor, which I believe is the signatory for any of the FERC information, or the general manager at the time. And that won't happen. There will be I expect there will be a full-time general manager by the time the final license goes in, and obviously there will always be a mayor in place. So.
Paul, do you have a quick one?
Yeah. Jerry, would you be available after the first of the year if the new general manager needed some assistance for a little while? Although we do have our mayor would, be able to help do all that, but would you also be available further than to the end of the year?
If the city wanted that, absolutely. Okay. I believe Garner will.
But the agreement isn't locked in for you to the end of the year, though.
The initial agreement is until the end of the year. It's till December 31st.
So it would be up to the...
Sure.
All right, call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGrath.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9668. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby approves an agreement between the City of Watervliet and Weston and Sampson with an address of 1 Winter Circle in Albany, New York for engineering services in conjunction with the City of Watervliet 9th Avenue Water System Replacement.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
So this is a project that will replace the main and any of the lead laterals on 9th Avenue between 16th and 19th Streets. So, first things first, obviously, 3rd Avenue a few years back was by far the worst street in the city of Watervliet. That designation now goes to 9th Avenue. 9th Avenue was pretty bad before National Grid got a hold of it, and now they have, and they're doing a relatively good job of putting it back together. But again, it's still patchwork across it. We had this grant for lead lateral replacements. David Dressel is here, and he could comment on it, but based on the information that we have, 9th Avenue in that area between 16th and 19th is one of our heavy hitters for lead laterals. There are a lot of lead laterals in there. I know I used to rent a house, an apartment on 9th Avenue, and I know that it has lead going into it, so I know that there is a lot there too with first-hand experience. So we do have a grant, so a grant would cover a portion of this project, and likely a portion, if not all, of the engineering, but certainly a portion of it. So this particular agreement is with our water and sewer administrative engineers that we already have on contract, and this just extends their contract or expands their contract to be able to do the engineering work for this project. So it would be a main and lateral replacement along 9th Avenue, and then of course after all that is done, it would repave the road. Similar to any other water main replacement we've done anywhere else, but partially covered by grant.
Now, the grant funds are only assigned to the lead lines.
The grant funds are only assigned to the lead lines, the restoration of anything done for those lead lines, and can be used for engineering of those lead lines as well. So it can be used for those aspects as well if the city so chooses to use it for that. But it can just be used just for the construction of the construction work on those lead lines.
And do we have a number? I know you said there's a number of them, but do we have a number? Was there a survey done on 9th Avenue for lead lines?
We haven't been out and looked at it specifically yet. There's
48 properties. There's 48 total properties.
On 9th Avenue?
On 9th Ave.
Okay.
I'm going to say probably 75% of them, according to our most recent records, are old, whether it's lead or galvanized.
But galvanized isn't covered.
Unless it's attached with a lead connection, which you wouldn't know until you dig it up.
And so the portion of this grant also is, usually if we replace a line, we replace it to the curb box. This allows it to go all the way into the connection into the home. So this is a little bit more extensive than any of the usual main and lateral work we would do. This would replace it all the way into the home.
Cool.
This water main, I believe, was put in 1919, so it's one of our oldest ones.
I understand that part.
And undersized.
Yeah, and I understand that, the 9th Avenue line, but I was more concerned about the encompassing some of the lead lines, because I think we mentioned specifically that galvanized lines where homeowners were not eligible for it. You had to have a lead line coming into your home in order to be eligible. It wasn't something that, oh, let's dig it up and see, and then say, oh, too late, but we'll do it anyway.
Well, we'll put the main in, so we got to dig it up no matter what, for each property.
Right.
So if they got a galvanized line, we dig it up at the main, and most of the time it's connected with a lead joint. If it's got the lead on it, that can be replaced, even if it's a short run.
It doesn't stop us from replacing galvanized. It
Right.
just wouldn't be covered in the grant if it didn't have a lead cord to it.
Oh, absolutely.
So we can still do it.
Yeah, it's still be done.
Right. So there won't be any eligible homeowners throughout the rest of the city for any of it?
There will. By the estimation of what David said, 75% of that, this would only be about half of the grant funding.
Okay. All right. So we intend to open up the rest of the city as well.
Mm-hmm. And there's some recommendations on that which can certainly be shared with the council.
And this doesn't allocate the funds, this is just bringing Weston Sampson.
This is Weston Sampson to engineer the
Yeah,
project.
engineer, but it's for the project.
We could revisit how we allocate the funds.
From the grant.
Okay.
From the grant?
Or the grant to the absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Consult.
Call the roll.
Consult.
Scott.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGratty.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9669. The Council of the City of Watervliet hereby appoints Scott P. O'Reilly to serve as ex officio member of the Dog Park Committee.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9669 as written.
And I'll second it.
Does this need a lot of discussion? Scott, you want to say something?
Nope.
All right.
Here.
Feel free to vote no.
Wow, Scott, that's almost there. 3 years.
Call the roll, lock it in.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGratty.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Thank you very much. Next, we have resolution number 9670. The Council of the City of Watervliet hereby establishes an advisory committee known as the General Manager Search Committee to receive and review resumes and correspondence from interested candidates for the position of General Manager of the City of Watervliet, and to make recommendations to the newly elected mayor for the selection and appointment of an individual to the position of General Manager of the City of Watervliet, and further appoints the following individuals to serve as members of the General Manager Search Committee for a term of 3 months. Jeff Collette, member, Steve Jamrose, member, and Bill Farr, member.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
Want to explain this, Charlie?
Basically, I think it's self-explanatory. There's just going to be we establish some community members to act as a search committee to actually review incoming resumes for the general manager and make recommendations to the council, the incoming council.
It's kind of vague in the sense that there's no job description pertaining to this resolution. So the council now, I don't have any job description pertaining to this resolution. Should we have a job description before this goes out?
For a search committee?
No, not the search committee.
For the GM?
Yes, for the GM.
GM job description?
Well, there's something in the code, and it's also in the or charter, and there's also the announcement itself.
The announcement, it doesn't say anything about the announcement or about that. I'd like to have that into this resolution.
Have it added?
Yes. So we all know and people know how much we're going to pay the new GM.
Ooh, I don't know if that'd be in there.
That wouldn't be in there.
We could have a range.
A range.
Well, it's okay.
I don't think I think that will come. That'll come at the end of in January when the offer's made.
So if I want to put an application in without knowing what price I'm going to be paid, why would anybody want to put an application in if they don't know what the salary is?
Most of them look at the budget because it's a line item, just from experience.
Won't that be in your announcement for your search? Some of that information is, I mean, as far as the resolution goes, there is no job description.
The announcement isn't drafted yet?
The announcement's drafted, yeah. Yeah, the announcement's been drafted.
Did you see it?
No. Why don't we just put that in there? Table it until next week and put that in there? Oh, this is not needed, it's there from the county.
I don't know what the issue would be with tabling, but we've already had the discussion last week on this and making a resolution for it. So I don't know what would tabling would do except delay in the advertisement to be able to have a general manager to run the city in 2020.
I just would like to have a salary here.
Well, you have You have a line item, as the mayor said, you have a line item in the budget, we have a discussion on it, and as you can see, we have the authority to be able to change that at any point in time anyway. So if we wanted to decide to change that, we would, discuss that at a future time.
Can we attach the announcement?
We can attach the announcement. I don't have a problem attaching the announcement.
That's fine.
To the resolution?
Yeah, fine. We have the announcement.
You're shaking your head.
No, I just don't understand. I mean, it's just a resolution that forms an advisory committee, period.
That's it.
I mean, not to minimize what you're saying. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but for the purposes of breaking down what's on the resolution, it's just for you to determine whether or not you want to vote to form an advisory committee, to, as it specifically said, to review and receive applications, and to make recommendations to the newly elected mayor on selection of a general manager. So, right?
Right.
The committee isn't drafting the announcement, or they're just screening applicants, yeah.
I have a question on that, because it doesn't read that way, just in my reading of it, because it does say to make recommendations to the newly elected mayor for selection and appointment. So would that mean that they're just going through the resumes, or are they going to be interviewing and making and recommending someone for the job, or is it just recommending a group to be further reviewed, or
recommending a group to be further reviewed?
Okay. Thank you.
And it says to newly elected mayor that it's got future tense. So you want to be making recommendations now?
Well, in pursuant to the charter, the mayor appoints a general manager.
Right.
I'll fly the line. Is that your question?
Well, it's written that he's going to be reporting to the newly elected mayor. Don't make it too much of it.
I think you're.
Can we attach the announcement?
I think everyone's reading way too much into a resolution
I just
that
wanted to
took
clarify
5
that
minutes.
it's the same thing that was discussed previously.
Yep, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Let her roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGrath.
In favor.
Mayor May.
In favor.
Mr. Mayor, to the best of my knowledge, that's all we have in new business.
Appropriations and accounting?
Nada.
Public comment period?
I'm sure there'll be some of those. Before we get to public comment period, just want to announce again, Senior Center craft sale, right? Craft sale?
Craft fair.
Craft fair, so do it. Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., right here at the Senior Center.
Thank you.
And now, this time the council has authorized the public comment period. If you wish to address the council, you must step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 2 minutes to address the council on any matters you wish. At the end of your comment, the council may reply or choose to reply at a later date, if they so choose.
Hello, Jen Sawyer, 1517 Avenue A. First of all, thank you, Jeremy, for reinstating bulk trash. It was a big thing, and I did appreciate last week when you saying, what your concerns were. It did open my eyes to a lot of different aspects that really I was blind to. So I appreciate that. And also I'd like to say, thank you. Although you and I have not always seen eye to eye, your heart has always been in one move. So I do appreciate all the work that you've done for our city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm much taller than you, that's probably why we don't see eye to eye.
Yes, Council. Lionel Goodrow, 2105 4th Ave, Watervliet. I just had a couple questions. One is, if you're owner occupied, could you pay like a small fee to have a parking spot in front of your house? I don't know if this has been brought up before. This is only my second time here, so excuse me if it's been brought up before. Got an answer?
It hasn't been brought up, and no, we can't make a fee.
Can't make it happen at all?
Well, I suppose there's some way to make it happen, but most of the streets are public,
Well, then can
full
I
access.
go before you guys to get a permit, to get a, build a garage?
You'd go to the building department and then maybe to the zoning and planning boards.
That's what I gotta do? Okay, now the second thing is, I got a big tree that my neighbors claim. I have to ask permission when I cut down the branches and stuff. The thing is leaning and it's pulling up the sidewalk. Who's responsible for that? That's the tree owner, right? Or is that the city?
It depends on where it's placed, but if it's, it's between the home and the curb, obviously, so between the,
Yeah, it's where the grass would be.
yeah. So that's the responsibility of the property owner.
Okay, so what do I have to do to address that? Walk over?
Is it
find
theirs?
something?
It's on their property?
Yeah, the old man claimed it along before I moved in, and I had asked permission to cut branches down.
If you feel that it's a danger, you should report it to code enforcement.
Code enforcement?
Yeah.
Steve, right?
Steve is one member of code enforcement, yeah, absolutely.
He'll take it right now.
And the third thing is, isn't it illegal to blow your grass cutting and leaves and garbage into the road and into the drain? Is that, I mean, I remember reading somewhere where it was illegal to do that for bikers. Because the grass makes the bike slide.
Oh,
I'd have to look in to see if it's specifically illegal. You're not supposed to put anything into the sewer system.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay, so that seems like road, we going in. I'm not gonna say names, 'cause I'm sure you probably didn't know, but I want to know, so like when I address it, I can give them the right information. And that's what we do, I guess.
they're blowing it directly into the sewer?
Yeah,
The
he
catch
blew it
basin?
out the road, he blew it out the road one day and garbage came over on my, I said, man, you can't do that. So he stopped blowing it on my property and blows it into the sewer drain now.
Yeah, there is
It's a big ass pile, so there's a big pile there on top of the sewer drain, you know, I mean, who won't say get around that corner and there's a lot of bikers on that block. Comes around that corner, they're gonna slide. I just want to know my information before I go there.
That's good, that's a good way to approach it. We'll get an answer for you. Or when Steve goes to look at the tree, he can look at a grass pile. No, codes could advise on that as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Someone would have to be caught in the act of doing it.
I got video of it.
There you go.
I got videos of everything. I got videos around my house, my car, everything. So I got talk to you about the tree on your time, on your working. So I'll see.
Andrea Hughes, 108 15th Street. What's going on with the lights? I asked last week.
Yep.
The lights outside?
Talked to the electrician on Wednesday. He was supposed to stop by and check them out.
Okay. I was just curious, and thank you for everything you've done, Jeremy. Thank you, Scott, and welcome to the dog park, Scott. Dog park committee.
You want it?
You know, you're in charge. I'm just on the committee with you.
I'm not in charge at all.
Yeah.
Get rid of all dogs.
Dog lover.
Welcome.
Anyone else want to speak tonight? Anyone else?
Mark Marquez, 568 6th Avenue. I just want to recognize Jeremy for the job he has done. I've been in the city working part-time for 19 years. And in the short time that he's been the general manager, I believe he's done an excellent job. And I know this is his last meeting, and I just wanted to at least recognize him. The people of the city really should be proud of the work that he's done. And he will be missed, guaranteed.
I'll second that.
I'm coming.
19 years, they can't give you a full-time job yet.
Trust me.
Don Whitehead, 1921 8th Avenue. Again, Jeremy, I've already given my thoughts. On 23rd Street at 7th Avenue, they're putting in a new water main, new water line. They're doing it correctly. They put in concrete before they put the blacktop on. But now there's a drop about 4 inches from the road surface to the concrete. They have got nothing but cones sitting in front of the opening, and they're only that high, and there's no street light there. Somebody's going to be driving off if somebody doesn't get down there and get something done tonight, especially the conditions out there tonight. It's a safety issue. Okay, again, Jeremy, thank you.
Did you ever get an answer about the loop oil?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us? Because I
Well,
Good. So I can provide an answer, and it's actually a pretty easy one. So when Stewart's was built with the gas pumps, Stewart's was not required to come in for a variance to be able to put their gas there, with Selby's gas station being an established gas station and Lukoil. The reason being because those gas stations are not within 500 feet of the Stewart's gas station. So neither Lukoil nor Selby's gas station is within 500 feet. So did not have to provide a variance.
For Stewart's or for Lukoil?
Well, for all three of them. If they're not within 500 feet for one, they're not within 500 feet for the other.
Okay, so all three of them wouldn't require...
Correct.
Okay.
Selby's is very, very close. Like almost exactly 500 feet, or exactly 500 feet.
I think it's 485 feet.
I appreciate that, but we measured it, and it was, Selby's was 501, and Lukoil was much further.
Somebody else measured it 485 from the city.
but that wasn't my question.
Right.
My original question was it a non-conforming station, Lukoil, which it is.
It's not a non-conforming use.
It's a non-conforming
That it was
facility
vacant for a year.
because it's been closed for 12 months, and the zoning law does not say anything about ownership. It just says if a business is not
So
in
what is
operation
non-conforming
for
about
12
it is the question. What would it need
It
to
lost-
come for a variance for?
It lost its ability to have the use because
No,
it...
that's a established use for that area.
It's an established use, but the facility itself, the original question was whether it was in 500 feet or not. It does not conform to zoning which I already told you. The roof over the gas pumps under the new zoning have to have peaks on them, and it's flat. It's a minor issue. The zoning board would give them a variance.
And I think that has been addressed by the zoning officer with the owner of that.
Okay, but my main question was whether or not it was a non-conforming establishment because of the 12 months that it was closed.
So,
and if you measured it, obviously...
So technically, it is a conforming use to have a gas station there.
Yes.
So to have to go to the zoning board, there would have to be some sort of zoning violation, and when it was placed in front of the zoning code officer, there was nothing there that showed that it was. And based on the information that was given last week, I sent folks back out, not just the zoning enforcement officer, but somebody else as well, and we were able to confirm that it was, again, the distance was the main part of it, and then it was brought up once again that it was the canopies was the issue, and so that has been addressed with the property owner as well, and there'll be a resolution on that.
Very good.
That's it? All right, I'll close the public hearing.
Second.
Yeah, I know you were going to make one or make a recommendation for or talk about it. Do we have to discuss it, or we just did it? Because it's got to be done by the end of the month.
Oh, I mean, speaking to Brian, recommends it, but I don't know.
Okay.
But, I mean, there has to be some sort of guidance as to what.
That would be executive session. There's no deadline?
And there's not a specific deadline to be able to do it, but you want to do it in a certain period of time. So
Yeah.
should be done Within the next 30 days, yeah.
Put it on Mark's list. All right, I'm close the public comment period, and before we adjourn, I would just like to end on a positive note that Art started and publicly thank Jeremy. Jeremy has gone above and beyond. You only see him here at these meetings. He's in a role where it's nothing but criticism, but the amount of positive that he's done, I don't know if we can measure, and it would take a couple of these meetings to run through it. It's been a pleasure. I've worked with him in several capacities, and this is like the cap of it. It made my job easier as mayor. Whether the folks up here know it or not, it made their jobs easier. And you know, it's tough to move on, but having been on a lot of sports teams where each year we bring in a new set of freshmen and some of the other folks move on, it's hard to do, but it's part of the way this whole process works. And I'd like to thank Jeremy. I don't know how much we could thank him, but and then wish him luck in his next role with CDTA. Luckily, we'll still have him in the region here helping us out. So I don't know how often we do this, but or how many gets him. How about a round of applause?
Enjoy your 40-hour week.
So we have to adjourn the meeting unless you want to make some comments.
I mean, listen, thank all of you guys. Thank you for the kind words today. You know, even thank you for the not so kind words before today. But you know, as much as sometimes it doesn't seem like it, you've definitely supported me through my tenure. I really mean this. This isn't, you know, blowing smoke. It really has been an absolute honor and privilege to serve the community that I love, that I grew up in, that my grandfather owned a business in, that my family, you know, my parents were raised in, that I raised my family in. It's very important to me. Specifically, I want to thank Mayor Manning. You know, when I was, you know, he hired me as city clerk, and then really, I think, you know, he knows me well, but he took a chance on me as general manager. And I believe that I did him and the city proud. I want to thank the previous and the current council for providing me with the support. Specifically, I want to thank the department heads and the staff of the city. You know, the mayor can say that, you know, the accomplishments that I had or, you know, what I accomplished, it's not me. You know, everything we do is we. We've done it all together, and it's the hard work of everybody. No individual makes anything happen around here. It's because everybody works hard together. So I want to definitely thank the department heads and the staff. I also want to thank the public, all of the people, all of the residents. Again, I always have the thing where my job is to stand up here and let you guys throw tomatoes at me. I don't mind that. That's fine. I'm pretty big. They bounce off. But that's your job. That's the job of the residents and the taxpayers, is to question everything that is decided up here. You have to question it. You have to demand answers. And like you said, Jen, I'm going to be on the other side of the table after that gavel hits. Whether or not I'm going to be here on the other side of the table, no matter who's up here, keep asking the questions. Keep demanding answers. That's what your job is. And our job, or their job, is to give you the answers. And I hope that in my tenure I gave you the answers. And I listened to all of your questions, and I heard them all, and I hope that the answers that you demanded, you got them. Whether you like them or not, I hope that you receive them. And the one thing that I will say is, keep in mind, and I know there was a lot of times where my family was affected by it. Again, I don't really get affected by this stuff, but we are all in this together. We are all doing what we can. Everybody has the best interest of the city in mind and in their hearts and what they want to do. We may disagree, you may not like what it is, but remember that we're all working together to get it done. Keep in mind that everybody is a human being, and the things that you say matter. How you say them matters. There are times when people can get very upset, and to the point where they can get nasty. It's not necessary. But express yourselves, ask the questions, work together, and continue to make this city the great city that it is. Thank you guys for your support, and I will miss being here, but like I said, I'm not going anywhere, so I'll be around. Thank you.
Mayor
In favor?
Councilman Franciscelli.
In favor.
Councilman McGratty.
In favor.
There it is.